Hello, I'm pointing at the cat. She is into something she's not supposed to. Welcome back to Life in Every Season. This is our 2-year review. Actually, it's about 25 months of our Ashley Hearth wood stove. We've had this, at least one request for this. I'm going to do some quick tips we've learned. I just finished cleaning out the ashes. When we burn it in our use, and we use it for supplemental heat, I have to clean out the ashes about every week to 2 weeks, so let's say 10 days in the winter when we're using it. And that's using it every evening for sure. And we have a metal can, a metal scoop. I like to do it when the coals aren't red. And also cleaning the glass about every, and it's not glass, it's a clear ceramic, I understand. Just make sure when you clean it, do it when it's cold. I use Windex and some paper towels. It's nice to see the fire burn. The other item is starting. Again, I mentioned in our 1-year review that these new airtight stoves that are roughly 85% efficient, somewhere in the 80s, they do not like any green wood. So we save our paper bags from the store. I apologize for the noise. I like to put one bag on the bottom. I've got I've got kiln dried oak scraps. I'll put one on the bottom and a couple smaller pieces on top. And I crisscross them. I'm trying to create an air gap. And lastly, I'll just take a bag, put an oak scrap in it. And I'm probably going to lay the poplar on first. I've got mainly poplar in our wood lot. Poplar is a hardwood. It dries out a lot faster than oak. It's lighter than oak. The downside is it burns about half the time. It has about half the BTUs, the heating power. So it does create a nice flame. So that's enough to get it started. I have noticed this stove always starts on this end, away from the hinge of the door. And once you fully close the door, when it's all warmed up, the flame spreads in this direction. So yes, I'm still using a plumber's torch. The bottle's almost out, so my flame is really small. But we'll light this end away from the door hinge. And as it starts going, I close the door, because otherwise you get a lot of smoke in the house. Not a lot, but it's a little bit coming in. And after it's going good, I close it. Like I say, there's a catch as you close the door, and as it just catches on the frame, I'll turn this flame out. As it just catches on the frame, it's about 3/8 of an inch. I've got my finger here. I'll come back when the kindling started, 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll close it down halfway, so I'll reduce that gap in half. And then lastly, after I feel like it's ready, I'll close it completely. The air dampener on the side, which is what you use when the door's closed, that's fully open now. So that's when you start it, you want it fully open. So hopefully this will go. But that's my startup procedure. If you don't get it the first time, hang in there. Use some more paper, use some more kindling. You'll get the hang of it. And it's definitely easier to keep this stove when you have red coals or it's not quite out, to add a piece of wood. That's what we do. We are roughly heating half our house. We're 500 square feet. This main room's 250. The office laundry behind me is 100. Kitchen to this direction is about 150. It really doesn't move the heat. You can have it 80 degrees in here, and the back part of the house can still be 65. And that's because you need mechanical ventilation to move it. We have mini splits. We do not have a whole house heating and air. If you did, you could turn the fan on and probably move some of the heat. As we watch this on startup, the question I had was, how long will this burn? And let's say you're getting ready to, you want to do an overnight burn. Maybe you want to set it up an hour before you go to bed, fill the firebox full of as much wood. We don't use the stove like this. It overpowers the house. But we'll try it just for the sake of YouTube. And I also have an infrared heat gun, so we will get the time once we start that. First thing before we do that is to get a good bed of coals, and then we'll load it up and see how long it'll go. Okay, I'm glad I didn't film starting this fire, because you would have laughed. I had a little trouble. Every now and then, like every 10th fire now, I struggle to get it started. So if you're new to lighting your stove, just keep at it. Don't get frustrated. So let's load this up. But what I put in earlier has burned down. We've got a decent bed of coals. The air intake is still fully open. So let's load this up. What I have is 2 pieces of, because this is going to be mixed hardwood fire. So I've got 2 pieces of kiln dried oak. I have a couple pieces of poplar, and then I have a piece of maple. So let's load this up, and we will come back when it's burned down. I have a infrared thermometer. Let's do the side. That is about right in the center here is about 350. Right there is about 350. Now the wall, as a comparison, is only about 115 degrees. So let's continue to load this up. Let's put a couple pieces of poplar. Say this is a lot more wood than we would typically load in here. I could probably put a little bit more, but let's try that. Also, I've got a thermometer, which I keep away from the stove, which I have, but it is reading about 72 or 3 degrees. I know you really can't see that. And if we swing up to our analog grandfather clock, it is 5:50 or 10 till 6. We're just 15 minutes into this burn, and I decided to add one more piece of poplar to kind of fill out the firebox. And like I say, we've got 3 decent sized pieces of poplar, a piece of maple, and 2 pieces of oak. And you can see it's going pretty good. The other thing I did was put the air down to the lowest or the smallest setting, so I pushed it in this direction. So we'll come back when we see it burn down. You can see from the clock it is 8 o'clock. We started at 5:50, so we're a little over 2 hours if I'm doing my math right. You can see from the stove just about the last flame went out just a little bit ago. It's down to coals. Again, the air intake is still on the smallest setting. The temperature has gone from 72 or 73 to about 80, 81. Let's just call it went up 10 degrees in this room. I'm down to my undershirt. Side temperature. It's now 350, 360. I saw about 500 here in the biggest part of the burn, and this spot here got up to almost 700. It's now about 370. And this little fan, which runs off the heat of the stove, when the stove gets really hot, it starts to wobble and rattle. So that's kind of our gauge of we don't want to fire the stove any hotter. So I hope this helps. Well, I'll come back when this temp, let's just say it falls into 200 degrees. So we'll see how long that takes. I forgot to mention, that the temperature this morning was about 16 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, the high was right around 32 or right around freezing. Our forecast for tonight is to go from about 32 Fahrenheit down to about 24, 23, 24. So that's the outside temperature. I should mention the insulation under my feet is Rockwool R15. If you count the subfloor, what's called R16. The walls during the gut rehab, we gutted this whole house down to the studs. I put the R15 Rockwool with the pine on the inside, the sheathing, and then the 1/4 inch foam under the vinyl. Let's call it R17 in the walls. The ceiling is R19. That is something I haven't been able to get to yet. Hopefully by next winter we'll double that to about R38. So that gives you an idea of the structure we're in roughly. And I did foam all the windows, all the cracks, so I tried to really reduce the air seepage. And as I mentioned in the first video with the stove, I'm bringing my combustible air through the hole, 4-inch hole in the back, so the stove is being fed the air that it's burning. It's coming out of my crawl space. It is almost 9:20. Started at 5:50. Let's call that 3.5 hours. I can see just a little bit of coals in there. It'd be easy to restart the fire. Let's see. Let's do the side center. 198, 197, we'll call that 200. And the top, I believe that's where I was measuring for, it is about 175. So I hope this helps. I have never tried to run this stove for a long, one big pile of wood and see how long it'll burn. I hope this helps you if you're deciding on the stove. The way we use it, I don't like to get the room this hot. We try to keep it between 74 and 78. So I am home a lot of the time. So what I'll do is I'll put a piece or two on, let it burn down, get a bed of coals, and come back before it's, I don't usually let it get that, go that far out, but we are, because it's getting close to bedtime and it's still hot in here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got questions, please leave them. Please send them to me. I will try to answer them the best I can. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time. Bye.